couple hundred babies there. I had all three of my children there. We got there around 1971, and I was pregnant with my first child at that time. And yeah, I really loved delivering babies and having all that wonderful energy from birthings.
What do you do now?
Oh, I work at Highland Hospital, which is a county hospital in Oakland, and there's actually a movie out on that called The Waiting Room, and it's supposed to be very good. And I work as a physician's assistant in an HIV clinic. I've been doing that since 1997. So kind of the different aspects.
I'm Gary Halati, and I came to the farm in 1978. It was my first stop after completing my internship in family medicine, and I spent the next 6 years there. I guess I came to the farm, I had delivered 50, 60 babies, and had never seen a home birth. And when I did first see the farm midwives in action, as much as I loved delivering babies, it was clear that the midwives were much better suited than I would ever be. And I was happy and really felt very privileged to work with them over the years. I left the farm in 1984, and inspired by my experience there with the community, I got involved in public health, and I've been working in public health ever since.
I'm Christine Gibson, and I played a pretty small role, with the midwives in the early days on the farm. I was a teen mom, and when I jumped on the bus on the caravan in 1970, I was pregnant with my third baby. I had a diaper pail in tow, and Stephen was very magnanimous. He didn't want to turn anyone away. I probably should have been put on a bus and sent back to California, but I had the first baby on the land when we landed on the Martin farm, and I was really very scared. I had 2 births at UCSF. Both were, I was pretty young and pretty clueless, and so I had, midwives had to talk to me every day and give me a pep talk and say, "Oh, look at those hips, you can do it," and yeah, that baby's just gonna come on out, and and then I go home like, yeah, I can do it, and then I'd have to go back the next day. I don't know, but anyway, I did then aspire to be a medical person and a midwife, and I became an EMT and then a registered nurse, and then a midwife. I went to UCSF and became a nurse midwife, and I did some home birth with Carolyn Bell for quite a few years, and that was really the highlight of my midwifery career. And I live here now.
I'm Stacy Kerr, and I went to Monday night class. I hitchhiked from Missouri to see what was going on with this guy, Gaskin, and showed up for Monday night class and realized that this is what I wanted to learn. But I went back and finished my degree in education, and then I went to the farm as a teacher. And I wanted to be a midwife, but I was a teacher. And I lived on the farm and I had 1 baby in the woods of Missouri and 1 in the woods of Tennessee. And I left the farm in 1983 and immediately started pre-med because I decided that I wanted to be a spiritual physician. I could have been a midwife, could have been a doctor. I thought, how much fun to take care of the new babies all the way up until they're old. And I could go to med school, maybe. So I did. And I became a family physician, and I came to Santa Rosa and opened a private practice, and Carolyn and I practiced together for a few years, and I delivered a lot of babies, and I delivered babies in the hospital. Even though I'd had mine at home, there's a lot of women who can't have their babies at home, or they don't want to, they don't feel safe there, or their insurance won't pay for it, or maybe their partner wants them to be in the hospital. Regardless, some women have babies in hospitals, and I didn't see why they should be denied an empowering spiritual experience. So that's what I dedicated my obstetric practice to, and I had a lot of fun doing it, and I wrote a book about it. I retired when my receptionist made more money than I did, and I could no longer afford to stay in practice. And instead of going to work at Kaiser with Carolyn, I stayed home and wrote a book called Home Birth in the Hospital, which is an oxymoron. I know you can't have a home birth in the hospital, but it starts the conversation. And now I am retired. I have a grandbaby in Maui, and I garden, and I speak about birth as a professional speaker.
I'm Carolyn Bell, and I had the great good fortune to have my first baby when living on the farm 40 years ago, and fell in love with the process of birth. Had no idea how transformational it could be on a personal level, and just decided that's what I wanted to do. Moved out here, had a couple more kids, and have been attending births ever since. Had a private practice here in Sonoma County, doing home, hospital, and birth center births for over 25 years, and also got to do family practice, following some of those babies even up until college and beyond, so that was really fun, working with wonderful people like Stacy, Christine, and many of the others of you in the audience. For the last 10 years, I've been doing more global health stuff and working in other countries with birth attendants in places where birth is pretty different than here. And I'm really glad that I got to have the experience in philosophy and traditions of the farm community as part of my primary background with birth. I'm going into other places, for example, Tibet, and Peru, and Haiti, where things are pretty different in a lot of ways, but people are living in the boonies, they don't have water, they don't have electricity, and babies come out. But it's not as safe as it is here. So that's one focus, and when I'm here in town, I do catch babies at Kaiser. And,
In the birth